37 degrees Fahrenheit. That was the low temperature this morning. Call me a wimp, but my body is not adjusted to these temperatures yet, so I had to break out the heavy jacket. Unless Mother Nature is going to do us the favor of frosting out the rest of our crops, I'd prefer the temperature to be a little bit warmer. Usually when you have some free time in the morning during soybean season, it's nice to go around and kind of catalog all your fields, maybe make some mental notes on their progression, how close we think they are to harvesting. These beans are a Beck's 3530 E3. They've got some green stems. Pods are all dried down though, so I think if those beans back home where we're set up now will not cut, I'd say these will. And they're already pretty dry for 7:45 in the morning. No final decisions have been made yet. While we wait on the beans to dry and the carts to kind of unfold in front of us, we're gonna bring this 9620R back in home with the inline ripper. We're gonna make some changes. Oh, a little rough out here this morning. Dad and I have weighed all of our options and we've essentially decided that this combination right here just isn't gonna work. And no, that's not from a lack of power. Based on what I'm seeing in the tractor, we need to run about 4 to 4.5 miles an hour to get a nice low impact movement on the topsoil while working down deep. I don't think we're going to be able to do that in a cost-efficient manner with this tractor. Keep in mind that this is depreciating faster than any of our four-wheel drive tractors. It's newer and it's bigger. That's just the way these things go. That being said, we've got some smaller tractors that we think will be a better fit for this, and we will reassign this to maybe a different job. Tell us your secrets. It's got oil. In my opinion, if we're not pushing 70% plus on what this tractor is capable of pulling, it's really not a good business decision to hook such a large tractor up on it if we've got smaller things that can get the job done. When you look at this and you look at that, it may seem like it's not doing much. We measured this at 14 inches deep in the ground. The bottom of that shank right there is going 14 inches down, breaking up any kind of deep-setted compaction. Yeah, we could definitely go deeper in the ground. We don't want to get too aggressive though. I know the deeper you can go, theoretically, the better, because the more you are disturbing that hard pan in the bottom of the ground. What we're concerned about though is once you get 14 plus inches in the ground, if you go through a spot where a tile is a little bit higher than you're expecting a drainage tile, you will cut right through it. Now most of them are 2 to 3 feet in the ground. It wouldn't be surprising though to latch one, especially in old clay, that was laid shallow. It is a shame though, because this is my favorite four-wheel drive tractor. Might as well work our way out, right? To those of you who doubted how much power I'm talking about this tractor, I mean, we're running 8+ miles an hour and we haven't even hit the top. At the same time though, it looks like we're setting off sticks of dynamite down in the ground. So we can't do that. It's back to 4 miles an hour. You can see the difference. Low disturbance. Too much tractor. Nothing we can do about it other than change it out. Wide load entering the roadway. I also didn't fold it up. Still narrower than the tractor tires. Here's a fun cheat code for you. If you want a new township road, you hit this button down right now. In the next 2 weeks, you'll probably have a new set of road here. That tool right there, that's an earthquake. We are going to unhook this for another tractor, and then we're going to grab that big disc ripper, because it's probably going to be on this tractor. Do a little switch-a-do. The old 2720 disc ripper. It's a nice, hefty piece of iron. While Chris and Jeff replace a few shanks, Dad and I are gonna go check some more beans. Dad and I zipped over real quick and looked at those beans. Don't know whether or not they're gonna cut. We do know that they will cut before these 3.2s will. Much more consistent maturity out in the field. So we're gonna unhook everything here, 780, take one combine over for now, cut a sample, see if they're gonna cut today. Oil. Seems a little low. Try it one more time. So it's used a little bit, but it's good enough to run. Disappointed, I just missed him turning the engine up. Sounds real good when that 13.5 starts. I can't guarantee much other than the fact that it is going to be another beautiful day to cut soybeans, if we have soybeans to cut. I'm optimistic that these beans are gonna cut. We really won't know though until we get the combine over there and cut a sample. That's why we don't move all of our chest pieces to the same spot immediately. It's just a waste of fuel. If we find out that those are gonna cut, we'll revert back, Dad and I. We'll wind everything up here, move it on over. The draper smells like a skunk. I do wish that harvesting soybeans was as simple as corn. You pull into the field, you don't leave till you finish it. Soybeans have so much day-to-day and hour-by-hour variation to field moisture content that if you're not careful, you could get a few bad loads to the elevator and end up costing yourself a large amount of money because you weren't paying attention to what those moisture levels were. We're gonna continue the dance, dancing around the countryside, finding dry beans. Looks a little greener from the combine cap. Instant moisture anywhere from 13 to 16 and a half. Also a little tough still. Could have just been a clump of beans. Didn't sound good though. Hydro pressure 1100 raised to 12. No major issue. For the most part, moisture's running 12 to 14. So the wet spots are getting up 15 or 16. So by the time we get everything figured out, take sample the elevator, these will cut if we decide to cut them. Dad's gonna grab a sample from the grain tank on top. We know exactly what kind of beans were in there. We cut through some green spots. I'm gonna unhook this trailer. Marty's up there taking a sample. Shaking his head. It must be green. A lot of green and a lot of butter beans. It's not a good sign. Someone else is already cutting beans this morning. Right down the road in other outfits picking corn. Survey says 14.2%. On the bright side, we finally get to hop back in the grain cart. I've had a lot of fun this first couple of days running this. Speaking of fun, if you haven't liked the video already and you're enjoying what you're seeing, make sure you smash that button. It helps me out a ton. I'm greatly appreciative of all of you for viewing. Ready to hit the road? And I brought a little bit more excitement for later. The old Milwaukee grease gun. It's time to head east. You are indeed correct. Your eyes are not misleading you. We are back exactly where we started this journey. We got this rig a couple miles to the east. Dad radioed over from the 780 where he was starting to cut some more beans, got a little bit deeper into a different area of the field, and he made the judgment call that the soybeans are not in fact going to cut, which leaves us with no soybeans to cut and a little bit of unnecessarily used diesel fuel because I took the tractor a couple miles in a loop for no reason other than just a joyride, I guess. That's soybean harvest for you. I warned you. To be fair though, if there's anything on this farm that I'd want to take for a joyride, it'd be this 8R370 tractor, because it's pretty nice. We may not get to cut any beans today, or at least I don't think we're going to, but at least we get to service the grain cart, because I know that's what everyone was really looking forward to, myself included. The suggested lubrication schedule for the tracks on this J&M grain cart are very confusing in the fact that they say that all sleeve bushing liners are constructed of self-lubricating material, so they do not require grease. Grease, however, has been found to reduce self-lubricated sleeve bushing wear by up to 8 times in some instances. As a farmer, that does not translate to grease is optional. Really, it says you need to grease this grain cart. But we're not going to tell you need to, because then we can't say it's low maintenance. Don't get me wrong, we're going to do anything in our power to extend the service life of our equipment. So I'm going to put a little grease in everything. It's impossible to grease them. You can't even get on them. There's no access to it. I just finished up greasing all the drive shafts on the grain cart, the auger lighting, and the ILS, or the independent front suspension, on the 8R tractor. And just in time, 780 showed up to the field. He's hooking up to the head, so I wonder if he's going to go ahead and try and cut a sample. That answers that. Grain tank's unfolding. For anyone curious, this path right here and right over there, that's from the sprayer. There's no way to go through the beans without running them over. There's a lot of green foliage out there, and I'm sure they're a tad bit wet still. This combine though, it's like a hot knife through butter out in these fields. Actually, I don't know. Those are pretty dry. Go ahead and put your guesses down below in the comments right now. Tell me, do you think the boss is gonna green light these fields on day 2 to cut? Or are we gonna wait again? Just remember, for those of you who are not farmers, waiting is very challenging to do. If these are borderline, a lot of times some people will just put the pedal down and run through them. As long as we're getting them all extracted from the plants and not throwing them out the back of the combine, they're getting in the grain tank, we're pretty much good to go. And of course we need the moisture to test, but I'm sure it will. Are you gonna try and cut them?
Look up from here north anyway.
Those of you who said yes, you were correct. Also, just want to highlight these small handheld Midland radios are a great supplement to your bigger radios in the tractor, especially for me as the grain cart driver who bounces around. I get out, I do different things. I need to be on call when I'm away. So having this strapped on me makes it easy for me to stay connected to the fleet. For those of you who are interested, Midland is always running awesome deals during harvest season. Follow the link in the video or down below to check them out. The boss has reverted his position. He thinks maybe we're not going to cut these beans now. Told you there's a lot of variability. Yeah, there's some wet ones. A lot of green foliage for this time of year, that's for sure. Getting up to 15%, 14, 13.4.
Was it 14.7 there, Andy?
Moisture goes up, and then it goes down.
Where's the average?
Up on the top screen. 12.3. Combine's growling.
Yeah, look at the moisture.
Just dropped Katie off at the second combine. We're gonna have 2 horses in the race now. As the tech and troubleshooting guy, I get to spend a lot of time in just about everything. But back to my favorite spot, the grain cart. There goes Katie. These beans are a tad bit on the wet side, so we're gonna do our best to keep these loads to the elevator under 14.5%. Once you get over 14.5% moisture, that's where you really start to see a very steep slope in financial loss. What are those beans testing through there, Dad?
They're 12.9, but I'm going to run into some wet ones right about when I get to the house.
If the sun would just pop out from behind the clouds, these beans would dry up in an instant. Just not wanting to do that. Back in action. Coming up on your left side. Jeff, what'd that load test at the elevator? He just got back, so I'm coming down the road, so what?
13.
14 or 13?
14.
Jeff either said 13 or 14% at the elevator. Either way, those both work. Back and forth we go. Combine, combine, truck. Combine, combine, truck. Nice full combine. That's the way we like them. Dreary day out. As the grain cart driver, I feel like I really get my money's worth. When they're full, we get a nice long through to unload together in tandem. Just because I don't have to mess around with moving a million different places. I just square up with them, and we dump for a good 60 seconds. There's the sun, dust flying, temperature warming up a little bit, breeze blowing. This is my kind of soybean cutting weather. I've got no idea what he's doing or where he's going. Although sometimes I wonder if he even knows what he's doing. It's getting to that age. Other than a late start to the day, we're doing pretty good. Got about 90 acres cut. I don't know if we're gonna be able to finish this field, mainly because we're gonna run out of dry beans. The elevators are staying open an hour later tonight, which definitely helps our efforts. In typical combine fashion, one is on the far north end of the field and one is all the way on the far south end of the field. I can't really complain with the results on this field. Average seems to be in the 70s, which is pretty impressive considering the fact that this had a lot of water damage. Of course, we'll wait and see what the official scale verified yield is. Don't know if that'll be today or what day in the future it'll be because the moisture is still being a rascal. We've really skirted by on the dockage. We've been careful. Haven't cut any spots that were exceptionally wet. We're leaving some spots out here. A lot of 13% loads, maybe a shade over 13, which is definitely acceptable. One load came in at like 14.3 or 14.4. We got a little rambunctious, maybe cut some beans that weren't quite ready, and we got docked a little bit for it. But that's just part of cutting beans. You're gonna have a lot of good ones and a few bad ones. And 14.4, it's not really a big deal. We are getting pretty close to being out of dry beans out in this field though. So we may be pulling off here soon. The elevator is already starting to recognize that harvest season's here, as opposed to 6 p.m. shutdown like they were the other day. Now we're at 7. Keep in mind that 7 o'clock shutdown time for an elevator is typically viewed by farmers as meaning we need your trucks in by 7 o'clock. If you're not in here by 7, don't come. I've seen elevators that close at 7 that are dumping trucks till 9 o'clock because there's that many in line. It can get real hectic this time of year. A lot of traffic on the interstate headed south, which is surprising with that hurricane. I figured you'd see a lot more people going north. If you're in the Florida area or anyone affected by this big hurricane at all that's coming through right now, wish you the best of luck. It's probably not going to mean much to you because by the time you see this video, it's going to be long gone. I hope that getting everything repaired isn't too much trouble and there's not too much damage to begin with. But we know how powerful Mother Nature can be. See you, Katie. Shadows are starting to get awfully long, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting a lot of intermittent cutting from both combines, a lot of starting and stopping, indicating that these beans are probably getting a little bit on the tough side. I always hold a lot of reservations with this big 125 acre field, especially in soybeans, because of the sheer amount of water we get out here when we get a very large rainfall, which seems to be increasingly common in the last 5 to 10 years. This winter we made some massive strides to improve the drainage on this farm. We doubled our surface drainage capacity by adding another 24-inch tile. I'm sure most of you saw that video, but for those of you who haven't, go back and watch it. If you sort my channel videos by most viewed, it's been my most popular video ever as of yet. Sure, one day maybe we'll pass it with something better, but go check that out and you can see exactly the kind of drainage system we need on this farm to get the water off. Soybeans definitely suffer from more susceptibility to water damage than corn. Specifically, wet roots really hamper a soybean's ability to put top-end yield on. So that's why we're concerned with this field. We get a lot of surface water and it has tight soil structures to not really allow the top surface to dry out, the subsurface to dry out, ultimately causing root rot and other soybean issues. And we lose a lot of yield because of it. We normally plant a short season bean or something that matures a little quicker out here. This is a Pioneer 32 T26E Enlist soybean. They seem to be performing extremely well with the exception of ponding areas out in the field and of course areas where we packed down last fall and winter harvesting the crop. What a year this has been. So much more mud than we're used to. Looks like she got ejected. Just up to the 780 in tracks now. Did you get fired?
I guess so.
Maybe I need to get stuck again and I can go home. Yeah, those are some pretty nice ruts. Oh, you had to back up a long way.
Well, then I started to go through, and then
You backed onto dry land that tried to go again. You almost got stuck. That concludes my safari ride for the day. Not quite a desert out here. The exact opposite of the Sahara. Although these beans have great pod counts on the plants, the size of the beans are ridiculous. Look at those things. They're literally popping at the seams, about to burst because they're so big. It makes me really happy to see that. They almost feel like Skittles in your mouth, they're so large. Look at those new LEDs on the brand new line of 7 Series John Deere combines. Whew. That's illumination right there. He'll be coming around the end row when he comes. He'll be coming around the end row when he comes. Soybean harvest is just a cakewalk. I really have the flexibility to kind of lollygag around for the most part, even trying to catch 2 combines. Now in corn, I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off, even with just 1 combine, especially that big 780. Completely different volumes of grain being harvested off of each acre. Typical harvest performance. Once the sun sets, the dew comes out of the ground, and of course the ambient temperature starts to drop. The beans themselves, the stems, get a lot tougher. That becomes challenging for both the heads to cut the beans, bring them in without plugging up. The ground likes to drag up as well because that dew kind of balls everything together. It also makes threshing the material challenging as well. Wet material does not process as well as dry material. Really, that 4 or 5 o'clock window where we were running about full speed, that's good cutting. Once the sun sets, you're gonna be pulling hairs out pretty quickly. There's 2 things that'll shut you down during soybean harvest at night. Either the beans get too high in moisture, or they will not cut or feed correctly. An honorable third mention is you break down, but we're not planning on breaking down. That never happens. I've never tested the lights on the 8R370. This has fancy lights on it too. Wonder what they look like. Be a shame if we just didn't find out for ourselves. Those did not disappoint. It's a challenging time of night for our combine operators. Marty waits for no one. He just goes for it. Those lights are bright, but they're not eating away my eyes. Also trying not to stare at them, which helps. I turn a lot of mine off to help the combine operators. This is a good time of night to have these cameras installed. They still look great quality-wise. Now, as a grain cart driver, it is my responsibility to park in the way. Seems good. Darn it, I didn't have to move. Task failed successfully. Look at the size of those beans. A few pods and some butter beans as well. The dry beans though, they're monsters. We're waiting on this hopper off the S780 and then we're gonna quit for the night. Surprisingly, we cut like 110 acres out of this 125 acre field. I wasn't expecting to cut any of it today. Of course, we had to keep a very keen eye on moisture the entire time. We do have a little bit left on the north end, 15 acres. Really though, we got the majority of the low ground cut, which is important because we have to worry a little bit less now about any kind of major floods coming in. Don't want to see our beans underwater. We got those out and it feels pretty good. There's no question that I go above and beyond to get the great angles for you guys. If you have not liked the video at this point, do your man a favor, hit that like button. We're not loading any more trucks. Pulling them out of the field and shutting them down. I don't want to spoil any surprises. The real big reason why I'm excited to have these beans off, we got a tile crew coming in. We're installing some more subsurface drainage. We'll talk about that in another video. Well everyone, it's tractor cool down time, and as you could have guessed, after a moderately intensive day of harvesting, well, not really at all, that is going to be it for me. I do greatly appreciate all of you tuning in. Your support means the world to me. And I'll continue to put out these harvest videos, vlog my life out here, and try to explain things as we go. That's definitely it though. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and comment down below if you have any questions. You know I love to talk about farming. Have a great day, everyone. Peace!